Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Joe Theodore and thank you so much for joining me today. So this will be my third video on Jupiter and Gemini and my last video on Jupiter and Gemini because it is arriving in a few days from now, and this is my all signs horoscope video for you. So yeah, what I'm going to do is just briefly kind of talk about in a very small way just what I think this transit's going to mean for us for the next year. And then we're going to get right into going through the signs. And yeah, the way I do this stuff, I know astrologers get like heavy into it on YouTube here, but if you know me, I'm more, I kind of just, I'm more of like a podcasty type of channel where, yeah, I'll throw charts up on the screen. Maybe not for this video because I'm just going to channel through and kind of talk fluidly and intuitively. But you guys know my style. I don't spend like hours here just going through charts and stuff like that, unless I feel it's really, really necessary. But yeah, guys, so this video today will be all about kind of just understanding Gemini a little bit deeper. I think we all sort of have a good handle on what Gemini is. I'm a Gemini moon, so I should have a good handle on what this is. I do know the shadow pretty well of Gemini. I do know the beauty of Gemini. So, I mean, what can I say? We're going to be shifting into complete and utter Gemini energy, like starting the other day. The sun entered Gemini, and this is the first time we're seeing any true air in a very long time. The last time we've seen any major air stuff was Aquarius, honestly. So, Neptune and Saturn, or not Neptune and Saturn, I'm sorry. Pluto is really the only influence that has air involved right now. And yeah, we had all of those personal planets transit through Aquarius months ago. So really the only mutable energy that we've seen in recent time has been I don't even know when Mars and Venus and Mercury were going through there. Probably like the winter time. So, but Gemini energy is totally different than Aquarian energy. Gemini energy is witty. It is fast. It is superficial. It is very talkative and communicative. We're dealing with communication. We're dealing with how we connect with others. And I don't like the word superficial for Gemini, but you have to understand Gemini is very social. It is very let's talk and let's discuss things without thinking so deeply. And I'm not saying Gemini placements or anything happening in Gemini is not going to be deep. It's just, and especially with Jupiter, things could get deeper actually, because Jupiter is a very deep planet. It is a teacher. It is a guru. It is, the sign of spirituality and optimism and expansion. So we can be dealing with, elevating Gemini characteristics, in a more profound way. Or we can be expanding things that are, on the superficial level, on the level of, social media is even pretty big with Gemini energy. And so is Aquarius, of course. But so yeah, there's a lot to consider with Gemini energy, and we have the sun there now. We have this Jupiter ingress, which will be around for a year, and then we have Venus and Mercury following just very quickly, behind Jupiter. And then my June forecast will have a lot of information on what's going on in Gemini, guys. Like, I have a lot to say, and I'll be recording that video later. And it will be up on my Patreon, which I will be launching probably tonight or tomorrow to get that first, pre-release of that, June forecast up. And then I have a big announcement for my classes that are coming, which will be available probably next week, and on a special teaching portal on Patreon, which you do not need to be a member to buy my classes. And they'll be very affordable, and I hope everyone considers, buying the classes. All right, guys. But yeah, Jupiter is, it expands everything. And, for the good or the not so good, sometimes it expands things we don't want to expand. But, and when we're dealing with Gemini energy, we can see things expanding in a very rapid way, because mutable air is unpredictable. It is changeable. It is, I mean, it could be all over the place, but sometimes we need that. And after all of the fire in Aries and that fight for identity and understanding the self, and, I think so many of us in the world, really trying to understand where we stand now in the world. What do we want to do? I think the world and ourselves, because we're one with the world, are very, very in tune with, how are we fitting in now? Like, what do I need to do? I think the Aries story and the eclipses and the retrograde, I've said it so many times, was a really big moment for how we can become more independent, self-assertive in that part of our life. I'm sure you were feeling lots of themes in your life with Aries that was very powerful, in that way. And Mars is still there, so we're still feeling that. And Taurus, yeah, I mean, I feel in some ways we've been feeling slowed down there. And in other ways, Jupiter and Uranus have been making things just really, really, amping things up and bringing so many sudden events to the world. And a lot of sudden things probably to you. And I feel like in the psyche, because Uranus can get in your head. It could really, really, it can cause electrical, insights and revelations. It's very shamanic, like Pluto in a way. But now that we're going to be getting into Gemini, and we're getting Jupiter in there to expand stuff, I think things are going to expand very quickly. I think for some of us in that part of our life, if we have anything, really optimistic and inspiring happening there, we could see things exponentially growing there. I think the way you communicate with the world can grow. I think on the world stage, we could see things in the social world and even in social media kind of go even crazier and wilder. Later next year, we could see TikTok get banned, honestly. And I know Jupiter is supposed to be a planet of optimism in that regard, but when you get dark forces involved with Jupiter energy potentially, it can expand things that we don't want to expand. And then honestly, guys, Neptune goes into Aries next year. Pluto will be in Aquarius full time. I mean, we could totally expect major shifts in the social media space. So I personally think TikTok's going to get banned, honestly, in America. So that all being said, guys, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to say with Gemini energy. Yeah, I mean, really all I think on the surface level we can expect, keyword surface level for Gemini, is that things are going to feel very fast. I feel like maybe your life will feel like it's speeding up. I feel that maybe there's things that could be coming to you intuitively. And, I think maybe there could be, like I said earlier in the video, there could be a deep sense, there could be deeper, profound things occurring with Jupiter and Gemini. So it might not be all so superficial and just surface level. But I think there could actually be really solid and deep connections to be made, So I think that's also really important to consider. But again, Gemini has a shadow. We can't be ignorant to Gemini's shadow, which can bring a lot of, things that we don't want to be moving so quickly, can really exponentially just fly out of control. But I think having faith and trust with that Gemini part of your life is going to help you, in a lot of ways. And this ingress is actually going to be very, very positive. So I'm just talking long term in a way. But in this ingress moment, we're going to have Venus there, so we're going to have Venus, in the realm of Mercury. And Mercury is going to be following right behind. So then Mercury will be home, allowing all of this to kind of, play nice with each other in a way. Because I think Venus is going to kind of keep everything not calm, but keep everything kind of beautiful and nice and uplifting. And, I think we could see, part of that Gemini aspect, be a little bit more lovely and, creative even. So I think a lot of us might be getting that burst of energy and wind in our sails that might be really important in the Gemini part of your life. But Mercury will be there, and Mercury rules Gemini, so we can expect things to really be moving fast, though. So that's that. And then Pluto will be trining all of this. So we have to be ready for some transpersonal transformation in that regard. So I think Pluto's influence immediately will allow things to, I don't know, when I say the word transform, I just think that like we'll kind of already know, like, all right, like I definitely feel like some change is happening here. Like I do feel, that there is something that's going to change. There is something that's going to, make a difference somewhere. I could meet someone that might change my life. I do feel a lot of people are going to meet new people, or make new connections that could potentially be life-changing, in that particular area of your life. So, and like, for example, I'm getting an idea of like, if someone meets a new teacher or in some regard, and they seem like, wow, like this person really seems like they know what they're talking about. They really seem like they can help me change my life and maybe shamanically, kind of inspire me in a new way to talk to myself and communicate with myself, and also to come to the world in a different way. Because Gemini can, it's our mental as well. So it's not all just like, hey, meeting new people, whatever. It's how we process stuff. So Pluto's trine can really transform the way we process stuff. And Jupiter will just be there, I think, for the best way possible, which I hope for most of us, is, just expanding our faith and trust in the way we communicate, in the way that we, dialogue, in the way that we think. This could be a great time this coming year for us to, I think, just, get to a deeper place in the way we do communicate, where we regularly would communicate on a superficial level. And I hope that makes sense. All right, guys, I'm going to stop blathering on now, and let's get right into me just doing we'll go through the signs, and I'll give you just like some brief intuitive insights on what I feel we can expect during this ingress moment. All right, so let's start with Aries. All right, Aries, this will be happening in your third house. This actually is the house of Gemini. So the third house, has to do with the way you interact, honestly, on a superficial level in maybe your local area. I like to think of the third house as just like your local environments, your daily activities. It could also represent the way you communicate with friends, family members, siblings, things like that. Local friend groups. We're not talking about, high, like opposite of the third is the ninth. We're not talking about high level professional stuff. We're talking about things that are kind of just like in your everyday. It is a place where I think Jupiter entering there could really maybe deepen your relationships in the local parts of your life. I think this could be deepening and expanding the way you communicate on a local level. And yeah, I think maybe there could be aspects in your family life, even though the third house, the fourth house is more about your family, but the third house to me is still about roots and family, because you're still in the realm of like the foundation of the zodiac. The bottom part of the zodiac wheel is still about your foundation in the world. And most of our foundations in the world are close friends, our close environments, our short trips around town and around our city, stuff that we're very used to and familiar with. So this, I think, you could be seeing a depth in the way you communicate, an expansion in the way you communicate. And on a shadow side, I guess we have to just be careful that things don't move too fast, too quickly. But I do think, the third house is a really good sign for Gemini to be in, especially with it being its home sign as well, for the house topic itself. So I feel like this could be very auspicious and very like, a good omen for this particular part of you guys, Aries. Taurus rising, this will happen in your second house of finances, resources, materiality, things that are all kind of Taurian in nature. Steadiness, stability, self-worth, even how you view yourself is something I really consider for the second house. And Gemini there, I think that you can have a better relationship. I think in a positive way, you could be, you could come into having a better relationship with the way you discuss money and finances and material stuff, maybe the way you think about it. I feel some of you may be even inspired in a new way to find new ways of making money, or new ways to invest stuff, or new ways to, a new relationship with the way that you view, just physical things, and I think you might become a little more eclectic with Jupiter there, maybe even a little bit more spiritual. You may be more attracted to spiritual items, or even becoming minimalistic. Even though Jupiter expands, this Jupiter could expand your view into becoming more minimalistic, And we have to remember that, Venus and stuff and Mercury are all going to be a part of this. But so this initial ingress is going to be very lovely and very vibrant and very fast. And I feel inspiration will just be coming from left field, left and right. So yeah, I mean, it just really depends on what's going on in your life, honestly, and what placements you have. But generally speaking, this will have a lot to do with, I think how you feel in the world, like how you feel worthy in regards to the things you're attached to, materially speaking. So yeah, I think depth can be, I keep getting the word depth for things that might deepen in that part of your life, like I've known people that, have given up a lot of material things, and, usually they can get more spiritual, and they want to like relinquish stuff. And usually I'm trying to think if it was during Jupiter transits, or, maybe I've met someone before that had Jupiter just naturally in the second house, and over time they just get more spiritual and more, in tune with a more profound way of looking at things, and they kind of downsize, which is weird to think with Jupiter there. But it expands their consciousness to want to downsize their materialness, if that makes any sense. So maybe that'll be something to consider for you guys. Gemini risings, this will happen in your first house, of course. So I feel this could be very transformative on an individual level. In a selfish way, I think, again, I feel this could be very psychic. I feel this can expand your way of communicating with yourself. I feel Jupiter entering your first house can also create abundance and expansion in maybe ways you want to be in the world now. And I think as a Gemini rising, you already are kind of looked at and accepted as someone who does communicate very well or enjoys communicating. So I would say there could be a lot of depth to the way you communicate that could arrive for you this year. But this ingress is going to be loud, because nothing has been happening in your, in this particular area of your life, unless you have placements there natally. So you're going to feel like a storm's about to hit you, I think, with this. But I think in a good way, because again, Venus is coming in there, and Jupiter will be right there as well. And the trine from Pluto to you, I think, is going to be really, something's going to transform in your realm of identity. And the way that the world even views you, like you could be on the precipice of really transforming something in the world, or the way people look at you. So this could be, really, I think this could be a great moment for you to embrace any new ideas you have. If you feel like you have any profound ideas, or if you want to express anything that's a little bit more profound or philosophical or spiritual, or this could be a good time to embrace more spiritual stuff. I feel like Jupiter is going to be there for you to help you out with all of that. And also to have maybe more faith and trust in the way you come to the world and speak, and the way you think. So yeah, off the top of my head, that's kind of what I'm getting, guys. Cancer risings, this will happen in your 12th house, the house of the depths of the unconscious. This will happen in the realms of deep sensitivity. And, the 12th house is the natural house of Pisces, and in a traditional astrology, Jupiter rules Pisces. So Jupiter will be very comfortable in a way, in this house specifically. And I do feel specifically for you guys on a very intuitive level, I think you're going to be getting messages from some deeper source of you that will end up becoming very conscious and mental. So I think on a shadow side here, you have to just be careful that maybe your mind doesn't get too overstimulated with too much, depth, and I hate saying that because thinking deeply is very important for self-development and shamanic transformation, all that stuff. And you may go through a lot of that. You may go through some shamanic initiations, but we have to be careful that the mind doesn't get too engaged and overstimulated during this process. So really ground yourself. I feel like as a Cancer rising, you need to, maybe keep yourself more anchored into the earth during this transit and during this ingress. But I think a lot of the things that may come to you in a more profound way that are going to hit the mental are going to be good. I think just don't get too obsessed mentally with some of this deeper stuff, and if you get any ideas that you want to self-isolate and cocoon yourself and, not be around people, I think you need to embrace, the Gemini aspect of the 12th house and maybe really talk about these things, like talk it out. Don't keep them inside, So I think that might be a theme for most of the year for you, but in a positive sense, guys, this can bring a lot of beautiful insights to you that will maybe even be very easy to understand, because Gemini, in a way, it's easy to understand the information that comes to Gemini energy, so I think very deep things can end up becoming very understandable. It's just don't overthink, kind of just trust in a lot of those deeper stuff that might come up for you, Leo risings, this will happen in your 11th house. So I think you guys are going to have an opportunity to really expand yourself in the world, the way you come to the world. Like maybe some of you are going to expand your reach on social media. Maybe some of you are going to get involved in collective things or groups that I feel can be very life-changing and profound. Again, I keep bringing up like philosophy and spirituality, but I think Jupiter's going to come in there and just really change the way we want to come to the world. I think a lot of us have deep-seated dreams and desires that need to become mentally manifested and communicated. I think we're in a time where a lot of us really need to get our ideas out there and are really, really trying to change the way we operate in the world. And the mental state is just as important as the emotional and spiritual state as a human being. So you guys, I know you're hungry to change stuff. I know you want, very much to maybe be seen in a little bit more collective sense, and again, the 11th house can be associated with like activism and really big themes in the world, businesses, humanitarian stuff, social media, but again, it really just on the basic core, it's just how do you show up for a group of people, like things that are more, are not just about yourself. We're talking about, resources and people involved in resources that kind of make one whole, like a lot of people that make one thing come alive. And you, I think, are eager to do something on that level. But the mental is going to be very, very important now, and it's going to be elevated. So this is a moment, an ingress and a full-time transit for a year with Jupiter, where I think there's going to be a lot of optimism and luck potentially that can come to this area of your life. I feel that if you take the transformative things that are going to come up for you, because Pluto's influence in the beginning part of this Jupiter transit, I think if you really understand what needs to be transformed in a group setting, or what your dreams are and your inclinations are and inspiration is now, you're going to have a lot of energy to work with. And I think, you have to trust in it. I think Jupiter wants you to trust in the way some of your ideas and mental formations kind of, are pushing you in a particular direction. So, try to keep yourself grounded, try to keep yourself focused, and allow Jupiter to teach you. Allow Jupiter to show you what needs to be changed, and trust in that change. Virgo risings, this will happen in your 10th house. So let's see here, guys. As a rising sign that's already ruled by Mercury, and your 10th house is also ruled by Mercury, And Mercury will be coming in to Gemini with Venus and Jupiter. I think this is going to be really powerful. I think on the shadow side of this, your mind can go a little too fast. You might feel overwhelmed. On the shadow side here, I feel like you need to worry about overwhelm in your career settings and the way you come to the world, the way people view you. If you have any goals in your professional life, I think in a shadow sense, overwhelm could be a really big theme, for this initial ingress. But with Venus there, I think you might actually be meeting people. You could meet someone or come across something in the mind, like a new idea for something that could be very inspiring and very lovely and creative. But I think throughout the year, we have to worry about overwhelm, overstimulation in your career, not, really maybe doing too much all at once or having too many things to do. Because I think as a Virgo rising, that might throw you off your center because you're very good at doing one thing at a time. But at the same time, Gemini energy wants you to be very spontaneous and very multitasking. So this could either be really good for multitasking or, you could find yourself being overwhelmed, there in the sense of that 10th house energy. But again, I think if you're aware of this astrology and you're aware of this potential for way too much energy to hit you, you can learn how to balance out your life a little bit in that particular area of your life. But this is an amazing opportunity for insane growth in your career, in your professional life, or what you are striving for in your professional life. And even if you're not someone into career, or your career is not really like the biggest part of your life, or maybe you're older, again, we all want to come to the world and be seen in some particular way. And this all plays into that role, it all plays into the 10th house, the way we want to take action in the world and kind of be known for it. So again, overstimulation is the biggest shadow part of this. But also, if we learn how to master the Gemini fluidness and spontaneous and the inspiration on the mental stuff, Jupiter will be able to provide us really insane amount of depth to a lot of this spontaneous, superficial communication and ideas and all this other stuff. So work with Jupiter, meditate with Jupiter, and allow Jupiter to teach you what needs to stick around and what needs to be let go. I hope that makes sense. Libra risings, this will happen in your 9th house. Okay. Gemini in the 9th house is an interesting place because for a house of religion and spirituality and philosophy and just, things that are like a little bit foreign, just things that are just more worldly and more, and definitely creative, And Sagittarius is the natural ruler of the 9th house, which Jupiter is the ruler of as well. So Jupiter will feel at home in this particular area of your life. And I think a lot of the things you might be getting as a Libra rising, which for you is probably much needed, honestly, to have a lot of maybe some more depth in the way you view things in the world that could be more meaningful, things that are just sort of outside of the realm of your everyday, let me see, I don't want to use the word superficial because Gemini is kind of a sign of a little bit of superficialness because it's very surface level, but also very smart and brilliant and, can really understand things very quickly. So you may be understanding a lot about the world and about, spiritual philosophy and just higher knowledge. Like I think you guys might have the potential to really integrate things that are very profound in the world. I think you might be able to understand things about the world or even things that are, foreign to you very quickly. And this might come out of left field for you. Like I feel a lot of people might actually go through, a lot of you might actually go through awakenings in some particular way. You might find, religious or spiritual vocations appealing to you, or even just studying new things, just really getting inspired to dive deep, in areas of your life that maybe have been dormant. I also think creative endeavors could really get amplified during the initial ingress while Venus is there. So, you know, I feel like a lot of inspiration for anyone who's an artist out there or anyone who's looking to create new things or write new things. You know, I think Mercury coming into there, I feel like, you know, there could be a lot of writers. If you're into writing or want to write, this is a great moment to start fleshing out ideas, and to do research, you know, on things that could be very inspiring to you. So follow your inspiration, follow your heart. And don't be afraid to want to study and look into things that could be very deep and profound. And don't be afraid to maybe go on a trip. Don't be afraid to expand yourself in some new horizons that maybe you normally would be uncomfortable with. But yeah, I really like the energy of this transit for you. I really do. I love the ninth house, just period. I love the ninth house. So for me, this is a beautiful, and you know, especially Jupiter feeling somewhat home in the ninth house in general. I think it's a really good blend with Gemini. I really do. Scorpio risings, this will happen in your 8th house of psychology, of transformation, of shamanic revelation. Yeah, maybe some other people's stuff. Like you could come into, maybe other people's resources will help you in your life in some way. You might find luck coming from the world to you, like other people's money or other people's stuff. Someone may offer you something that's very material, or you may be offered a new way of looking at something, or, maybe there'll be some psychic insights that really will hit your psyche and really like make you think in a new creative way in just a very mental, psychological level. So Jupiter coming into Gemini is going to illuminate, I think, just our psychology, the way we look at stuff, the way we feel deeply about stuff. Scorpio energy is deep. It can be dark, which I'll get into a shadow aspect in a minute. But Scorpio is amazing at integrating, things that are very, very transformative, very psychological, very psycho-spiritual. I feel it's a very psychic place to be. So Gemini might be bringing a lot of telepathic and psychic insights to whatever's going on there. I think the initial ingress with Venus and, with Venus and Mercury, I think can bring a lot of inspiration to things that could be very transformative and psychological. I think if you're an artist, your work can get a lot deeper. I think you might become really in tune with deeply spiritual and philosophical ideals. And this may greatly influence the way you look at things, your psychology in general, and maybe whatever work that you're involved in. Let me see here. What else with the 8th house? In a shadow way, I think you might have to worry about maybe going too deep into things that could be maybe religious or spiritual in nature. I think you should be a little weary of how you expand, some of the things in your psyche. So don't overdo it, really, and Gemini is going to be bringing things to you in lightning speed. I feel like you're really going to integrate things that could be deep and dark, and you just don't want it to you don't want it to overstimulate you. I'm a Gemini moon and I have it in the 8th house, by the way. And, I'm prone to looking at things a little bit too deeply, and I feel things so incredibly deeply, and I feel like darker things are attracted to me sometimes. And I just have to learn how to really not let that affect my mind so much. I have to keep myself grounded. But Jupiter's going to be there to hopefully catch us in a very optimistic way. I think it could bring a lot of, I think we're just going to be really transforming something in a psychological way there. So we just have to be a little cautious to not go too far into the depths and really just try to, keep things up in the mind and don't let it affect the emotional system too much. Don't let it override the psyche where it can maybe destroy it or disrupt it. Because the 8th house is definitely known to, bring you to your knees and, kind of have a massive dark night of the soul. But maybe some of us need that. Maybe some of us are on the precipice of a very shamanic dark night of the soul awakening, but it will only bring you to a place Jupiter wants you to expand and become more enlightened, So yeah, guys, that's how I feel for Scorpio risings. All right, Sagittarius rising. This will happen in your seventh house. So, yeah, guys, the seventh house of one-on-one relationships, period, full stop. Intimate things, the way you come to the world and the way the world meets you on a one-on-one level, this could be a great time. I think a lot of people might actually be finding, you might find people in your life that could change your life, for a long time. I think the initial ingress could, maybe enhance love life stuff or enhance one-on-one things, even if it's not necessarily people. It can enhance your connection to something else other than yourself. It's like yourself is here and the world is here. Usually that represents like partnerships, just any kind of partnership, even partnerships to, something that you're attached to mentally sometimes. I think Gemini energy in the seventh house can be just ideas, and a lot of astrologers don't talk about that. But I think sometimes we can fall in love and be connected to some ideal versus like another person. But usually those ideals are attached to people as well. So I think for you Sagittarius risings, Jupiter coming in there initially with Venus and Mercury will, I don't know, I just feel like you guys are going to connect to something on a creative level, on a loving level that will expand that area of your life. And I think you'll be able to begin communicating with that very fluidly. So, I mean, again, I'm not saying all of you are trying to date or fall in love, but if anyone is, trying to find a spouse or trying to find a mate or trying to find new groups of people, or not even groups of people, but I feel like even if you pursued groups of people, you're going to meet one person maybe in there that you're really going to connect with. So I feel throughout the entire transit there, you should be really understand this could be a great year for you to create a profound connection with somebody else. And as a Sagittarius rising, you're probably already pretty active and you're probably already very in tune with Jupiter energy, honestly, like deeper things or, just, wanting to be so expressive in the world. So this is just a beautiful transit, guys, I think for you that you will be able to connect with things and other people that could really deepen, your future and the way you communicate. So you can also be learning a lot from someone. I'm kind of getting a vision of someone going like on a retreat or going somewhere foreign. And for some reason, it just alters the entire course of the way they think about things. And maybe they'll meet someone in that process that really starts to, just form some kind of new bond that changes them forever. Jupiter, I think, will bring us a lot of inspiration and hope in maybe the realms of the way you look at partnerships and relationships. So to me, this is a great transit for a Sagittarius rising. Some of the shadow part of this is things might happen way too quickly. Things can expand way too quickly, and which can cause, turbulence. Think about an airplane that goes through the clouds that's a little bit too turbulent, like a little too messy and crazy. The plane's going to shake. So we have to be careful maybe on how many relationships we're forming. You could be making too many relationships and maybe some of those can be a little bit superficial. So you really have to, trust Jupiter to guide you to the relationships and the situations that could be, that are more deeper. Try to be aware of superficial relationships versus deeper relationships. Because I think you are in need and ready for maybe some more deeper connections in your life. Capricorn rising, this will happen in your sixth house of work routines, health, holistic life. I like to call the sixth house the holistic house because if you're not in holistic alignment with your sixth house, then you're going to be very out of balance. Just generally speaking, it'll be very hard for you to maybe stay focused in life. So being Gemini there, I think this can actually be providing, new ways for you to look and feel about your work and your health. I think you'll be able to maybe even telepathically communicate with your biological system better. I think if you've been struggling with anything, in a health way, even mental health, I think this can provide in the initial ingress, I think a lot of something beautiful to come into your life where it can really help you in a healthy way. I feel some of you might, just sort of kind of find out something, or, you'll become super interesting in something that could really influence your work life and health balance. And don't get it twisted. Every single one of us has some kind of, mental thought process on the way our work-life balance is, or, the way something might be affecting us in a health particular fashion. If you're trying to get into health, this could be a great way to expand yourself in a physical way. This could be a great way to maybe discover a new way of going about your health routines. And for some of you, your work life, might move really quickly. I think some of you may really, really see things in your local work environments move quicker and expand fast. I think if any of you are into communication work, or if any of you are writers or artists, or anyone that has the interest of communicating with their mind and their mouth, this could be a great transit for, diving deeper into a creative realm on how to make that a major part of your daily life. Let me try to see here. Yeah. And there could be honestly, I feel like a lot of you could be healing something in your health, Gemini 6th house placements. Because Jupiter is a healer. Jupiter teaches you things. Jupiter can heal you. Jupiter allows you to can bring like luck to you and optimism, but through a very deep way. Sometimes hope and optimism comes from a place that's deep, and we need to kind of trust in that depth. And Jupiter in Gemini 6th house can give you, Capricorn rising, a very like kind of serious energy. I think you're going to be getting some communication, in a very deep way that can heal something in your life there. So I think something in that particular area of your life can also find healing. And the initial ingress, I think that healing is going to come from some kind of creative source, or someone might enter your life that's very creative and may teach you something. Hope that helps. Aquarius, this will happen in your 5th house of fun, pleasure, kind of just, I don't know, the 5th house is so playful. It's so Leo-like. It's so courageous even. It's just not afraid to go out and adventure and go out and meet new people and, even hook up or, just do things their own way. And Gemini, I think, wow, okay. So Gemini in the 5th house, you guys probably have had I think you're really good at having fun. I think you're really good at coming up with great ideas for fun things. And this can be a great moment to amplify that. I think in the more positive sense, Jupiter in Gemini 5th house for you can really inspire you to take on new things that involve pleasure, but also can expand your horizons on what, true connections in the world can be. Because Aquarius risings are very, interesting, eclectic, and, they're also mutable, so there's a lot of air energy that can be happening with you during this year, with Jupiter there. But again, Jupiter is a guru. It's a teacher. It can bring even more spirituality into the way, that I don't want to say spirituality can be fun, because spirituality and religious stuff should be, taken seriously. But I feel you can be connecting with a lot of people that bring you peace and harmony and joy, through some potential spiritual pursuits, through pursuits that can be very expansive for you in the realm of how you communicate in those joyful things. So I can see, like, this is just an example, but I could see someone who wants to go traveling, for a year, like, someone who wants to really dedicate a year to, learning about cultures or maybe going on more trips. Like, I can see this being a beautiful transit for someone to really get inspired to want to expand their reach, in a very collective sense. And in those areas to learn a lot in the process. So Jupiter in the 5th house of Gemini. Yeah, I think, expanding stuff in regards to, I don't know, just the way you communicate with the world and with others. But I feel it's going to be, I don't know, just more elevated, and I think if anyone does have a lot of Leo energy as well, or this could be a moment where your Leo tendencies might amplify, because the 5th house is the house of Leo. But even though Gemini is there, that just leads me to believe that you have the potential to discuss and to communicate and to bring ideas into the world that can be very inspiring and very strong in nature. So with Jupiter coming into the 5th like this with Gemini, and you're very used to the communication aspect of Gemini, this very fluid mental part of that 5th house area of your life, this is a great transit, in my opinion, for you to expand, what you find joyful on a mental level. But again, if you are planning on traveling or doing anything that's very expansive in regards to moving around, that could be enjoyable. Like if you find traveling to be enjoyable this coming year, I would suggest, looking into deeper things to learn about that, So try to make your fun and your play deeper and more profound, because I think there's a lot to learn there. I know I spoke a lot, but I think that is, I think that's what I'm trying to say. All right. Lastly, we have Pisces in the 4th house. All right. So your roots, your home life, your inner self-worth, family. I think if any of you guys have had difficult childhoods or difficult family dynamics, or maybe you've always moved around a lot, or you're just never feeling settled in your home or in your roots, even within yourself, I could see the 4th house being a very chaotic, not in the worst of ways, but just very changeable. Like maybe you like to move around, or maybe you find traveling to different places and really you're interested, in other locations. Like you're not really so comfortable being in one place because Gemini energy is very changeable. I think there's something to really be learned about that way of life, though, for yourself. I think Jupiter might try to teach you, like, hey, like it is important to maybe stay grounded. It is important to find grounding within the home in yourself, because the 4th house is also like, where's the home within you? It's ruled by Cancer. That's like the moon energy. Where do you need nurturing? And I feel Gemini energy, you probably feel really nurtured in the way you communicate with others, like the way you communicate with your family, and if you've had a shadow aspect of that, like if you've had difficulties communicating with your family, I think Jupiter might be able to bring you hopefully some new profound insight that it is possible to create, a balanced home life where you can communicate in your authentic way and to feel at home in that energy. So I think Jupiter coming in to Gemini in your 4th house, if you work with Jupiter in a very spiritual sense, you can really become enlightened and awaken in a new way where, your roots in the ground can become more of a serious part of your journey in life. Because when Jupiter leaves this house, after its transit, I think you're going to have something to reflect on, and hopefully something has changed you, in a more deeper way in regards to your home life, in the way you look at yourself on a deep level. Jupiter might teach you what you need mentally in order to feel comfortable and nourished, because again, you probably have been very heady and mental and very active in the home roots part of your life. In the shadow way, things could have been really, really chaotic, and communication could have been an issue. And in the positive way, you could have been there could be just so much communication and so much changeability within your family dynamics or whatever the case may be, that's always been like a beautiful thing in your life. So I think the initial ingress will be positive, but in the long run, I think it's important to try to learn something about yourself on the deepest level, and also to, find the beauty and the spiritual truth on what it means to be grounded in some particular foundation in your life, aka what you would call home. And even if you call traveling your home, or getting on life on the road, expanding yourself in a new way of moving around. So on the opposite of that, some of you may need to move around, need to explore new places to live. That's possible too. But for some of you who might have lived that lifestyle, or you do live that kind of nomad life, even if it's in your mind, just constantly moving around and not really being stable at home, this could be a giant opportunity to, kind of learn something about being stable, and about being grounded at home. And as a Pisces rising, I know that this could be a really, I can understand this being more kind of a crazy situation for you. I think I know a lot of Pisces risings, or I did at one point in my life, who their home life was really changeable. Like they didn't really feel comfortable at home. They needed to explore and move around and this, that, and the other thing. And eventually that can catch up with you and burn you out. But for some people, they need that life. That's their true nature. So Jupiter will teach you, Jupiter will show you the truth of all of that. So yeah, guys, that's all I have for you. That is the end of this all signs video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you watched this entire video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch all of them, so you can maybe have learned something. But yeah, guys, that's all I have for you today, and I will see you all very soon. Sending you so much love.